Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Today I have brought you here to persuade you that nurses should not have an abundance of patients assigned to them at any given time. Whenever I was an adolescent, I dreamed of becoming a nurse. That aspiration was achieved November of 2011 when I walked with my head held high and received my practical nursing licensure. Soon I found myself applying for jobs. I was contacted the very next afternoon for a job at this one particular facility, and I can still remember that the nursing administrator said that they had a 1-to-9 nurse-patient ratio. By wanting to obtain employment as a nurse, I ecstatically accepted the position. And after only a few short 12-hour shifts, I became aware of what that nurse-to-patient ratio was. In this particular setting, one nurse cares for, on an average of 9 sick individuals, an assignment that is both rigorous and demanding. Nurses should not have an abundance of patients assigned to them because it creates a risk for medication error, is both stressful and exhausting, and limits the ability to provide quality health care. I am a nurse, and I know the feeling in having an abundance of patients. Today I will discuss with you why nurses should not have an abundance of patients assigned to them at any given time. First, I will cover medication errors. When a nurse is caring for a large number of patients, a feeling of urgency is initiated to complete the duty at hand. This makes the nurse have to unerringly deliberate. And we can't do that, because if you have abundance of patients, you put yourself at risk. And you're not thinking correctly, so medication errors arise. The definition of a medication error is any preventable event that may cause to or lead to inappropriate medication use or harm to a patient by a professional. And this comes from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services from the web. The nurse-patient ratio is a preventable event that could be alleviated by nursing administration. While discussing this topic, Jennifer Ebar, a practical nurse that I also had the pleasure of working with, she verbalized that if the facility that she worked for decreased the nurse-to-patient ratio, that she feels that medication errors would not arise. And I too also believe this. To a person who is unaware of what a nurse's responsibilities are, is ambiguous to what a nurse endures for just one sick individual. Being a nurse is not an average job. A person's life depends on critical thinking and decisions made at that moment. A nurse's job is not simple, and with added workload per patient, it is stressful and exhausting. From personal experience, with a heavy workload, it feels like nothing is being accomplished, and going in circles is evident. Courtney Garcia, an LPN, stated that the day before that she would have to go to work, she would find herself getting sick to the stomach because she knew what she would endure from the workload. So, with that being said, with medication errors and the heavy workload, patients are the ones that are suffering. Patients are suffering from lack of patient care. Most nurses find themselves delegating activities to people that are capable of performing the activity because they are bogged down with work. This is not set in stone, but a nurse should lay eyes on their patients frequently. But most of the time, it is physically impossible. This is frightening to even convey, but it is the truth. The nurse seems to be the bad guy, but the problem lies elsewhere. So the resolution to the problem lies with nursing administration. The nurse-to-patient ratio can be alleviated through the nursing administration. But administration would rather have fewer nurses scheduled in an effort to save money. In 2004, California passed a law that stated that facilities must provide regulations that only nurses could have so many patients. And here I've provided to you that law, and it comes from the California Department of Health. At the particular facility I work at, we had a 1-to-9 nurse-patient ratio, correct? Mm-hmm. Here in California, one nurse can only care for 5 individuals in that setting. Mm-hmm. That is extremely better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Finally, nurses should not have an abundance of patients assigned to them because it creates a risk for medication error, is both stressful and exhausting, and limits the ability for them to provide quality health care. It takes a special person to be a nurse. They should not have to question their decision for the profession they have chose, but be able to provide their gift of caring. This pertinent information needs to be known, for it is almost hidden into secrecy for protection of the facility. The main concern of health care should be the patient. Ultimately, the quality of care received depends heavily on the nurse's balanced workload. Thank you, guys.